Okay, just for a second, think about the last thing you bought online. Was it, I don't know, a new pair of sneakers, dinner, maybe just some random gadget you saw an ad for? It probably took you, what, a minute, a few clicks, and poof, it's on its way. We do this stuff all the time, right? It's become so normal, so easy. It's kind of completely changed how we live and shop. But here's a much bigger question. When we're all sitting there clicking add to cart, are we just getting stuff delivered to our door? Or are we, in some small way, actually helping to build our national economies? Like, does all this digital commerce translate into real, measurable economic growth? Well, a fascinating 2025 research paper decided to figure that out. They dug into data from 117 different countries to get an answer. So let's see what they found.
So before we can even get to the big answer, we have to figure out how you'd even measure something like this. How do you tell if a country is actually ready for a booming online shopping scene? The researchers use this really smart tool. You can basically think of it as a digital readiness report card for every country.
It's officially called the B2C E-Commerce Index. It was put together by the United Nations, and it's not just some single simple number. Nope. It's actually a pretty comprehensive score that looks at 4 absolutely crucial factors to see if a country is really set up for e-commerce success. Let's break down these 4 pillars, because they all make perfect sense. First, you obviously need people to be online in the first place, right? That's internet penetration. Second, you have to feel safe putting your payment info in. That's where secure servers come in. Third, the whole thing's pointless if your package never shows up, so you need postal reliability. And finally, you gotta have a way to pay for it all. That's financial inclusion. Basically, do people have a bank account or even a mobile money account? You need all 4 for the system to work.
And, when you look at the scores from 2020, this massive gap just jumps right out at you. Advanced economies, they're scoring way up there, over 87 on average. But emerging and developing economies, they're way down at 49. This gap, this digital divide, is a really important piece of the story, and it's totally key to understanding what the study found next.
Okay, so now we get it. We know how they're grading these countries. So let's get to the main event, the big answer. Does all this readiness for online shopping actually lead to a bigger, healthier economy? After crunching all the numbers, running all the models, the study came back with a really, really clear verdict. And here it is. The link is positive, and it's statistically significant. Now, that's just the fancy academic way of saying, hey, this is for real. This is not a coincidence. A country's readiness for e-commerce is directly tied to the size of its economy, its GDP. There's a real, tangible connection there. So what this all means is that online shopping isn't just some fun, modern convenience. According to this research, it is a legitimate engine for economic growth. Every little improvement a country makes in those 4 areas we talked about, internet, security, delivery, banking, can add real, measurable value to its economy. But it's not quite that simple. Because while the overall answer is a big yes, the story has a major plot twist. It turns out that the size of that economic boost is totally different depending on how wealthy a country already is. And you can see that split right here. On one side, you've got the advanced economies. They're already seeing a pretty big boost. Their digital markets are mature, like a fully grown tree that's already producing a lot of fruit. But, and this is the really exciting part, the emerging economies are where the massive untapped potential is. Right now, their growth is smaller because of hurdles like infrastructure, but they're like the seedlings. They represent this enormous next great frontier for growth powered by e-commerce. Now, the whole analysis gets even more fascinating when you start to break it down by geography. When the researchers looked at the data continent by continent, well, that's when some of the most surprising findings of the whole study started to pop up. Okay, so the results showed a really strong positive link in Europe. That's where the impact was the highest. But honestly, the real headline here is the next 2, Asia, Oceania, and Africa. They also showed a significant positive impact. This suggests they are becoming these powerful new engines for economic activity, probably because e-commerce there is still creating brand new value, not just shifting old shopping habits online. So this leads to a pretty glaring question, right? If Europe, Asia, and Africa are all seeing this positive growth, what in the world is happening in the Americas? And here it is, maybe the most shocking result in the entire study. For the Americas, the impact was basically 0. Nothing. No statistically significant link. And the likely reason why is actually fascinating. In a market that's already so mature, so saturated,
E-commerce isn't really creating new economic value. It's mostly just moving sales that would have happened in a physical store over to an online one. The clicks aren't building a bigger pie, they're just reslicing the one that's already there. It's a textbook case of diminishing returns.
So after digging through all that data, what's the big picture here? What does this all really mean for the future of the global economy?
All right, let's just put it all together. First, we know e-commerce is a proven driver of economic growth. Fact. Second, while advanced countries are getting the biggest boost right now, the real explosive potential is in emerging economies. And specifically, Africa and Asia-Oceania look like the next huge frontiers for this kind of growth. And at the same time, the most developed markets, like the Americas, might just be hitting their ceiling. And that brings us to the most important takeaway of all. If countries want to unlock all that incredible potential, the path forward is actually pretty clear. It's all about investing in the foundations of the digital ecosystem. We're talking better internet for everyone, rock-solid online security, reliable delivery systems, and smart regulations that help, not hinder, growth. So this leaves us with one last, huge question to think about. The global game board is clearly changing. We know the link between clicks and economies is real, but the biggest opportunities are shifting. So as we all move forward into this digital future, the question is, which countries are going to make the right moves, the right investments to become the world's next great e-commerce empires?